Hello, pleasant good afternoon to everyone. Hope everyone's having a joyful, well, at the very least, a pleasant afternoon. We want to welcome all of our listeners on radio, persons who are joining us on social media. Welcome to you too. We are aware that the Willful Skillful competition is taking place right now, so I will try and get some results for you there. But for persons who are into sports, sport fans, uh, those who are interested in all things regional and local sports, we've had a fill, and even in international, we've had a fill this weekend. Uh, a chastening fill for some of us, but excitement otherwise for a lot of others. And such is the nature of sports, such is the nature of being a fan of any sporting team. You're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs. And I'm expecting Gawain this afternoon as well. And we will go through some downs that I have had this weekend. So he shared at least one of those downs. And then some ups as well in terms of some results in different sporting disciplines. So it's going to be one of those heavy type of programs. I'm not going to go off into monologues at this point in time, but there is stuff that I really do have to say, and it will probably be the last time, for example, that I will be discussing anything Manchester United related on the program up and until I see some changes in terms of the management team, but there's some points I have to lay out there for all of those who've been paying attention. We suffered a humiliating 5-0 lambasting, for lack of a better expression, humiliating, um, shameful, and very much you could say actually that could really encapsulate what a Manchester United fan felt like this afternoon, seeing goal after goal conceded in the Premier League fixture, the much vaunted Premier League fixture between the two teams, a rivalry that has gone back at least a century in terms of their jostling for positioning in the Premier League table, and ultimately as well bragging rights as far as the matches between the two teams are concerned. So I will defer that particular discussion up and until Gawain joins us. And to start, what I will do is I will touch a little bit on some basketball. Now, the NBA season has kicked off, and we are having some scores coming in and some teams beginning to shape up. You still have the little Kyrie Irving drama, you still have the little Ben Simmons drama. Two situations I do hope sort themselves out over the next few weeks. It's a little bit, both of them for different reasons, it's a little bit distasteful, but at the very least, I don't think that all of these situations necessarily have to come with standoffs or one party or the other being disadvantaged. So, you know, I am certain there's always room for mediation, for negotiation when it comes to these type of things. In any event, a brief rundown as to what's been happening in the NBA. The Chicago Bulls have played 3 and won 3. The New York Knicks, my New York Knickerbockers, they have started the season quite strongly. They had perhaps one of the most exciting opening games of the season against the Boston Celtics. It went into double overtime, and they prevailed despite Jaylen Brown shooting lights out, you know, but I think it was as many as 6 Knicks scored in double figures. And then they followed it up with a nice victory over the Orlando Magic, I believe. And Fournier is turning out to be quite some player. He's certainly putting up in numbers. He had a big night against the Celtics, and he followed it up with a very good night as well against the Magic. So he's proven to be a great acquisition for those who do follow the New York Knicks. The Washington Wizards are in third position, having played in 1-2 as well. The Charlotte Hornets and Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee, though, they've played 3 and lost 1. Finish off to round off the top 8 teams in the East. You have the Miami Heat, who have played 2 and shared a win and a loss, and the Atlanta Hawks, who have done similarly. Teams that have not yet gotten off the ground in the East, a worthy mention, the Orlando Magic. I've just discussed they're losing to the New York Knicks. The Boston Celtics, surprisingly enough, have not started firing yet. Certainly going to see a bit of a revival from them at some point in time. They have a lot of quality there. And the dwellers from last season, Detroit Pistons, they have not yet been able to fire with their number 1 pick, Cade Cunningham. In the Western Conference, the top 8 teams are the Utah Jazz, continuing their their regular season form from last season, the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets, Memphis Grizzlies, and the Golden State Warriors. Of the Golden State Warriors, of notable mention is their victory over the Los Angeles Lakers. They had a very strong opening day showing against the Los Angeles Lakers. But it was interesting for about 3 quarters. And then Golden State, the Dubs ran away with it eventually. But beyond that, it's a powerful start from them. So that's the top 5 teams, all who have played 2 and won 2. Just to repeat, Utah, Minnesota, Denver, Memphis, and Golden State. Sacramento, Dallas, and Portland are currently sharing 2 games apiece. One win, 1 loss, and saying that I'm saying sharing. 1 win, 1 loss, as well as the Phoenix Suns and the San Antonio Spurs, who actually have 2 losses for their 1 win. Winless teams in the West, the LA Clippers, the Los Angeles Lakers. So Los Angeles right now, slow to start. The Oklahoma City Thunder and the New Orleans Pelicans. The only one I really getting good satisfaction of saying that about 0 and 2 to start the season in Los Angeles Lakers. That's because most of the people I know are Los Angeles Lakers fans, and yeah, it's a nice thing to see all that now with all the big names you're acquiring, Westbrook and everything else. Now to help LeBron get another ring, still can win nothing, but still quite early in the season. So we watch how the NBA season unfolds. The favorites being the same Los Angeles Lakers, the likes of the Phoenix Suns, the finalists from last year. Milwaukee Bucks, last year's champions, and the Brooklyn Nets, another power-packed, star-studded team from the East. Sort of balance it off against the West, Los Angeles in the West. So that's a beautiful bit of your NBA news and standings. I still trying to buy Gawain a little time to join us because I want to. Oh, you're there now? Great. Great. Boy. I said today is such a heavy. I said today is such a heavy episode. Let me get the good news out the way first. And that was like the New York Knicks being 2. Well, the New York Knicks 2-0 this weekend. So the NBA season now starts. Los
Yep.
Angeles 0-2, and New York 2-0. So
And
that's good news for me.
and my old team, the only team the first team I ever supported in the NBA, which people might think it is because of Jordan, but it wasn't. Chicago Bulls, 3-0.
Yeah.
So
They're leading the East right now.
yeah, 3-0.
Yeah.
I don't think I could recall them ever being 3-0 since the last one, a
Was the
championship.
days of Jordan. I think they picked up the is Rosen. Is Rosen? They picked up in the off season. They picked up a big player in the season, in the off season.
Yeah.
The pair with Lonzo and somebody else. I can't remember the lineup right now off the top of my head. But yeah, so for us in terms of basketball, it's a good weekend.
A good weekend.
Don't knock it. Don't knock it because it could have been worse. It could have been, DeMar DeRozan.
Mm-hmm.
He started off firing. So let's see what happens with Zach LaVine was the name I was trying to remember as well. So himself and DeRozan seemingly finding some good early season chemistry. So that's good news for Chicago. 3-0.
Yep.
So yeah. On to more sobering news. I know you would have watched ball for ball, the West Indies collapse.
Yes.
Abysmal collapse against England. So I said I would allow you to describe what you saw and then give you my thoughts on it as well.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. I must say I didn't see the start of the match, which is strange. I saw from the 6 minutes. I have to call it in minutes because it happened so fast I can't even call it in overs. I saw from
literally in minutes.
Yeah, I saw it from 10:06, and we were already one down. Simmons was in with Gale, and it just happened so fast. Like we played. To be nice, I'm gonna just refer to what Lara said after the match. He said we played like we didn't have a game plan, like we weren't sure what we were doing, and everybody just came in and playing for themselves, and the team didn't play for a team with any kind of team. Like they were coming out to play. Okay, this is the situation. Let's play for the situation. Instead, they were just playing like let's just play, as we normally play. And you're right. Because we had persons like, okay, Simmons got a good ball, but it's surprised. Gale, who, his situation with Ambrose, and he actually ended up top scoring. And it was funny because like halfway through when what his name is, when the captain was there with the vice captain, I texted someone and I WhatsApp them and I said, okay, let's see. But actually, no, they WhatsApp me first and I said, okay, captain, vice captain there, let's see how long they'll be able to stay there for. And then poor one left, Russell came in, Russell left, and I was like, but this is just ridiculous. Like we actually don't seem like we wanted to make 50. I mean, nobody came in with like any game plan. Like everybody just came in. Let's just try to hit out the ball. So much unlike what I saw in the previous game, which was South Africa, Australia, whereby even though South Africa only scored 118 runs or something like that in their match, when Australia was chasing down that, what mattered? The one in between the wicket and taking the singles. It's a big field. Everybody was saying it. Even when I was looking at the game, well, when our game started, and as I like to call him, one of the best commentators in the world, pointed it out, Bishop. He said, well, actually, I saw a match. I saw the pre-match, but I didn't see the start of the match. So in the pre-match, he was speaking about how when teams come in, one of the most important things that a team look at, especially in T20, is the pitch, how big the pitch is, where you hit from, how the wind is playing. Because he said all these things come very crucial because the match is such a short match that you don't have a lot of time to make adjustments. So you're trying to see how best you could manage if you're batting first, how best you could find the spots to hit. And that was the thing. We just came in and we just no game plan, like nothing. And I'd be like, no, this can't be West Indies, man. Come on. You guys are defending world champions. You have, and I'll come back to this, Bob. This is something we spoke about years ago when it was mentioned during Hunt, Hillier and Hunt time, whereby it was said, do we have a star team or a team of stars? And that's something that I think I want us to actually address. Do West Indies have a star team or just a team of stars? Because we got, on our squad, we got the best T20 players in the world, like hands down the best T20 players in the world. If you have to choose the best T20 players, even over the last 5 years, don't even go the last decade, the last 5 years, you could practically then say, okay, count out 5 guys, the top 5 guys, starting 11, that would be our squad. 5 guys in starting 11 would be our squad. Yet we have this issue whereby we don't have a team. Okay, in all, we didn't play as a team. And I think that is what affected us. We went to what Nicholas Fohan said in one of his interviews, whereby he said, we're going to play to our strengths. And yes, I understand playing to your strengths, but the team hurt in the situation whereby our strength is hitting out. But we kept hitting out. We didn't adjust. Like you didn't see any moment in time whereby the team was saying, let's just settle down and, well, actually, you aside from Pollard, but nobody else came in and was like, let's just settle down and try to play singles. Even Gary tried that, but then it didn't work. And we just never adjusted. We saw ourselves going in and trying to, and we never adjusted, and England did the right thing. When you have a jump on a team, you don't ever come out. They just kept hitting the right bowlers. They didn't try anything different, and we just kept hitting the ball. And that was a funny thing. And one of the commentators pointed that out. They were like, look at this. West Indies is literally hitting all the balls to the players, and they're finding out the players on the field, not finding the gaps. And that's how we played yesterday. We found every single English player on the field, but most of the time, we had a few bowling. But we just found the players on the field and we didn't find the gaps, and it showed.
I'll tell you that something. Yeah? I didn't watch the match yesterday, and deliberately so. I did not want to see the match yesterday because I kind of knew that they would have lost. I didn't expect such a hard curtail, but I knew they would have lost because the 2 matches coming in, inclusive to the one versus Afghanistan, they were clearly not in right form or frame of mind. Because you don't lose to Afghanistan and
Pakistan.
What are we talking about representing West Indies in a World Cup? However, watching Pakistan play today, I think what happens is this. You're right, we have some of the best T20 specialists in the world.
Yes, specialists.
Not necessarily cricketers, as in persons who can play across all formats of the game. And that's not a criticism, yeah? We have the best T20 specialists in the world. And the key is to form them into a sufficient enough of a tight unit to be able to carry out your plans. I think that they're getting there. I don't think that they're fully yet in terms of being a completely tight unit. But what they did not do, let me ask you this question. Who won the toss yesterday?
England won the toss and Centerson.
Centerson. Okay, well, that was a very smart move on their part. Why? Looking at how those pitches played today, the Australia game and then the India game, the Bangladesh game I watched this morning as well as the India game. In both games, batsmen were forced to graft. Now, the batsmen that were better at it are batsmen that are good across all formats. Babar, Kohli, the guy from Sri Lanka, veterans, but all quality batsmen across formats, not T20 specialists. I agree with Lara. They did not give themselves enough time to figure the pitch out. But that comes from when you have too many novices in your team. This is their first World Cup. So I know in their mind, they wanted to go out there and make a statement. You know, bat or ball. They wanted to go out there and make a statement early. But they did not take the time to read the pitch. Not, very few of them did. And the one or two of them that did, they were under so much pressure that England, as you rightly said, England turned up the heat at the right times as well. And you know what I mean? And the thing is, what happens is, when you're under pressure, you go back into your default mode. And if your default mode isn't proper cricketing shots, then you are going to be found out, because them fellas and them watching months and months of video on you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How much tapes they have on you. So they're coming prepared to deal with each and every single one of our cricketers.
Yeah.
So not allowing ourselves the opportunity to stay graft the innings, because that's what it would have required. Yesterday, look how Pakistan overcame India today.
Yeah.
Pakistan overcame India by grafting and innings, running in between the wickets, reduction of the singles. These are things that our batsmen are not necessarily accustomed to. Some of them maybe like Royston and one or two others, but definitely not the team that went out there yesterday. Them fellas and them come there to hit ball.
Yeah.
You know? And I just think that they underestimated the pitch, they underestimated the opposition, and they underestimated what they were going to come up against yesterday in that opening match. The question is, can they catch themselves and make the necessary adjustments for the next game?
That's the thing. I'm hoping that it goes down to be, okay, that was our bad match, and we learn from it and we adjust quickly. And that's the thing. They're already playing on Tuesday, so you know this is one of those tournaments where you don't get much chance to take time off and look at a lot of video. This is like you're playing every other day almost, you know. So you're gonna have to adjust quickly. So I'm hoping that they do adjust quickly, because we in the hardest group of the tournament. We're basically in the group of death, and we don't have any time to lose big like how we did. So the thing though is that because we were able to get 4 England wickets, the net one weight didn't look too bad, you know. So you can adjust it. So even after the game and we lost, we was technically in 3rd place, you know. Well, after the game anyway, we were in 3rd place, while South Africa, who lost their first game as well, was in last place. But then our next match is against South Africa. And you know how they played us when they were here, which is totally different, because South Africa, up to the point of losing to Australia yesterday, they were on a run. They didn't lose any match in the last, how much, about 6-7 T20s. So they were on a run. So that was like their one half as well. So now we now have to come up good against them. And I'm really hoping that we learn. And as I said, looking at the match, like just the last match there today with Pakistan, I mean, these guys, as I said, they went out and they were like, okay, we have 152 runs to make. Let's make 152 runs. And they just went out and just bat. Like shit.
They played cricketing shots, Gary. I cannot remember seeing a chance.
No, the only chance, and I pointed it out, I posted it today, the only chance that Pakistan had in my thing was the one out late in the innings. The attempted one out late in the innings when they went upstairs. That was the only chance. And here it is. And it wasn't even so much of a chance because it wasn't even like they had to look at the video a lot of time. That was clearly over the line by at least a foot and a half. So that's the only gap, the only thing that they showed India, And so they came out to be like, listen, we'll do, and I didn't even know their last 12. They were 0-12 or 0-11 versus India in World Cups, and they actually went out and clinically beat India. It wasn't like, oh, we beat India by a little bit. They clinically, that's a clinical beatdown. When you score 152 is like an average T20 winning score.
Yeah.
And these guys scored 152 without loss.
Yeah. And as you said, I do not remember. You see, the thing is with T20, right? And the reason for our dominance is with T20, it's a high risk, high reward type of environment, right? More so than Test cricket, which tends to reward patience and longevity. And even one day international now, tends to test your endurance, that kind of thing. T20 is a high risk, high reward situation. But these pitches are not giving you, at least the batsmen at this point in time, the type of purchase they need to take the risks. So they are losing their wickets. The traditional big hitters are not settling. You understand? So it will, I mean, I'm hoping that teams looking on use today's match as instructive, but Pakistan did not give a chance today. There was no risk. India's batsmen got a lot more yays and claps, but they fell 151 for 7 and 20. While Pakistan still had 2.2 overs left to go and make 152 without losing a wicket and not giving a chance.
Yes. They running the singles, like I think the way it was with Larry, the singles that they scored, I think it was at least 40. Because I remember at one time when there were 120 runs or something like 124 runs. I remember when it was 124 runs, they had already scored 32 singles. That had nothing to do with the twos, just 32 singles alone. So the dot ball percentage was ridiculously low. These guys were just running between, and they were running hard. So they were forcing the Indians to feel to top-notch feeling, whereby you had a few missed chances and stuff like that, whereby they missed the ball. But there was from ball one, and what they did, which is something that I have not seen, I was saying these consistently forever, is that in the middle overs, it was not dull. Sometimes in the middle overs, it gets a little dull, and then you...
Yes. No, that's when them fellas turn it up. Turn it up in the middle overs.
Yeah, in the middle overs, they didn't care who came on. It was beat ball again.
From the time the power play finish, I think it's when the power play finish and they made a change of bowler. Is when they hit the 2 sixes off I'll never remember some of those Indian names, but the spin bowler. Yeah, it hit 2 sixes off him back to back in the same over. Well, not back to back, but in the same over. Yeah. Hit a 6, make a run, next man hit a 6.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. He had a long name, but I think his last name is Vuna. I think the V something is what I call him. Right. I'll be back in short anyway. And when they brought him in, there was a allude to the fact they was like, okay, he comes in and he usually gets a wicket for India and stuff like that. But these guys were like, okay, it's like the new India game plan. They knew, okay, this is what these guys gonna do. They're gonna bring him in at the end of the thing, and we're just gonna see how we handle him. And as soon as he came on, and surprisingly, they bowled him out because they just bowled him out. He bowled all his overs back to back, and he had one of the highest. Yeah, they had the most ones off of him. And this was in the middle overs, and they had the most ones after him. So they were like, we're going to go after this bowler, keep our momentum high, because at no point did the one way get out of hand. No. The one way was always above it never reached 8, and it was always like 7.97, 7.27. So it was always within like a one a ball. Even coming down to the end, it was still within the same I won a ball until the last like 2 overs when they were like, you know what, we're just going to finish this early.
Get this over with. Yeah.
We're just going to finish this early. and that's
Yeah.
it. But they
So they were
played,
completely in control
yeah, from
the entire time when they were back.
and
I,
they
I would
almost
even say,
like from ball one, they were in
I would
control.
even, yeah, I would even, that's what I was about to say. I was even saying that their fielding was certainly much better than India's fielding.
Yeah,
And their bowling as well was, I think the man of the match was the bowler. What? No?
yeah,
Correct me if
yeah.
I'm
Was
wrong.
yeah, Shahid Afridi,
Afridi, right. I remember because
his
I
uncle.
was saying, I wonder if there's a Afridi son. Um, yeah, but so that tells you that despite such a great batting performance by the two openers, the the bowling and the fielding unit would have had to do an extremely good job. And again, their job, as much as they were looking for wickets, they bowled wicket to wicket to contain again.
Yes, yes. You
Kohli
realize,
survived. Kohli survived because Kohli is a traditional batsman. He's a batsman. So he
yeah,
stood out there. He knew his
mhm,
responsibility and he backed through the innings as best as he possibly could. But
yeah,
most of those others, again, who are T20 specialists, they are struggling.
mhm.
I don't know if you realize that.
Yeah,
What's his
because
name? Go ahead.
yeah, no, you say it, and you're right. Because go back to even the Australia game yesterday. Look how well Steve Smith performed because he again is a proper batsman.
Batsman.
These guys are just a batsman. That's it. Period. Nothing else. You know. So
Yeah.
they come in and they do their job and they did it well. And you're right because they pointed on, well, other than Glenn Maxwell who really dominated the last part of the IPL, he's the only T20 player who really showed up so far in the 4 games that we've seen. But you point out well that is the proper batsmen, the proper bowlers, because even Shane Afridi, he's a bowler, just a bowler.
Yes.
That's what he is. Come
Yes.
down, T20, ODI, test, bowler, period. He get wicket, and I think I mean, even though it's only 4 games in, I may want to call it off, but it looks like we might be in a little bit of a trouble if we don't find
Yeah, because
player to
we
stand
pick
up.
specialists.
Mhm.
We pick specialists. True cricketers like Jason Holder. Well, Darren is there.
Mhm.
So it may actually, I don't even believe I'm saying this, but it may actually make sense to try and see how best you could draft him into the squad in place of somebody,
Who- Darren Barrow or Jason
Yeah.
Holder?
Well, Jason is gone. And Jason, we can't do anything with Jason. I don't think Jason went to Saudi Arabia at all. But
Jason Holder
Darren
is
is in the
Yeah, Holder is there. Remember, Holder is there as in the 18, quote unquote 18. But he could only be drafted in if somebody's injured. But hey, they do it all the time where somebody just pick up an injury. So Darren is in the 15.
I am concerned that the guys that making up our first 11 are predominantly T20 specialists and not cricketers. Ravi is a cricketer, so that's 1+. The spin bowlers, for the most part, play across at least 2 formats of the game. Hayden Walsh and Akil Hussain, I don't believe they're T20 specialists, but from the captain, go down from there. Evan is shorter format of the game. Lendl not with it. Lendl is just a T20 specialist now. Roston Chase, well, this is first. He's all across formats as well, but this is his first World Cup. So yeah, we might be finding ourselves in a little bit of a pickle if that particular factor or becomes a major talking point at the very least for the remainder of the World Cup.
Yep. And I'm hoping that we're able to do that because as I say, you kind of don't even want to say it, but it might have to be that we do draft a proper batsman in. Because I mean, I've always I know that okay, if our top three gets going, that's it. It's game over. Simple, game over. But we are not as consistent. Our top three is still not as consistent as others that we've seen out there.
Is six
Whereby
hitting
again,
is six hitting going to be as big a deal as running between the wickets? That's my
no,
question. Based on the
not
first 4 games, whatever the case is, no.
no, because you realize how big the fields are.
Yes.
Like you could be hitting a ball for like 78, 80 meters, and that would just be dropping just inside the line for 4. When usually you hit a ball for 80 meters, that's an automatic 6. So it doesn't seem so. So it seems like we now gonna have to be changing up the game plan, and that is what
It's a little bit of a concern. It's a little bit of a concern.
it is.
And I was bemoaning Sunil Narine not making it, but in truth, again, T20 specialists, yeah. Let's see what traditional bowlers would be able to purchase off of this pitch here and see what them young fellas in them do. But hey, still early days, one match, as I said, a lot to consider, a lot to unpick, and I guess they're doing as much unpicking as we are. But let's hope that they come out against South Africa with a different approach and they're able to come a little bit more successful. If, however, you're like me and you are an India fan or West Indian fan, and you're also a Manchester United fan, then this is probably one of the more depressing weekends you'd have had in a very long while. It is definitely one of the more depressing weekends I have had as a Manchester United fan. I was thoroughly embarrassed today, Gavin. I knew we would have gotten beat. I kid you not. One of the mutual friends in our group who's a Liverpool fan, I would have had a word with her, and she asked me, how I feel about the game. I said, to be honest, and I'll be fair, I said I wanted Liverpool to win. She asked me why. So I said, well, I think it might just be the final nail in Ole's coffin if he's unable to get a result against Liverpool. Because the whole argument, or one of the arguments for him, was that he was beating the big teams last season and he comes second. So there's the first big team he had to play, and I kind of knew that he was not going to beat Liverpool. I don't want to start on Ole yet. Let's run through this weekend's results, and then I can finish.
But let me add, before you said it was that, I was peeping on them, and this weekend seems to be a weekend of plenty goals.
Yes.
Plenty goals. I mean, I won't count the 3-1. 3-1 is almost an average now, so I won't count 3-1 from Arsenal on Friday. But from Saturday, when you had Chelsea game and all these other teams playing, I mean, this weekend just seemed to be a plenty goal weekend.
Started off early Saturday morning. Chelsea put in 7 in Norwich. Norwich looked like they didn't belong in the Premier League at all. And then we had the 1-1 draw with Crystal Palace and Newcastle. Both teams really needed a win, but neither one able to come out with the goods. Everton started out really well I was watching that match against Watford, but Josh King turned it on its head and got a hat-trick, and Watford put them to the sword 5-2. Claudio Ranieri is the new coach for Watford, and he was able to engineer, the old Tinkerman was able to engineer a win over Rafa Benitez. Leeds and Wolves had an entertaining 1-1 draw. Then Southampton and Burnley. You watch the City match?
No, I didn't.
Okay. What was the result on that?
City was, I just said it just now. City beat them 4-1. Brighton, they beat Brighton 4-1.
Yeah, because last season, I think Brighton had beaten them at the Amex. So Pep had it in for the,
I remember Brighton beat them at home. Yep.
so Pep had it in for them.
And then Newcastle and Crystal Palace. I just want to stick a pin a little bit on Newcastle. I was speaking to someone in England, and they are of the opinion that with the takeover by the Saudis and stuff like that of the
Yeah.
that Newcastle will now become a force, and not a force as in next season. They're speaking about from when the transfer window open in January, how much players they're gonna actually be getting. Like they're gonna just pushing out money, like some serious money, just to get players. Because I think they're trying to get actually into Champions League by end of next year and then move forward. But I still don't know. So I just laugh it off with the guy. He's a serious. I'm like, nah, I actually don't see that happening. Not in 6 months.
Yeah, it'll take them, like City, it will take them some time to really build a team to challenge. And you right now you're a relegation team. So good news for you. You get a nice little investment. You're gonna have some access to some money, but it is better to take your time and build your brand.
Yeah.
And build the team, build your facilities to be able to, shop around, find a proper coach. Give yourself time. If you try and rush this thing, it will not gel as quickly as you may desire, and you may just end up having a set of prima donnas on your hand, earning big salaries and not really wanting to represent the badge. It's something I think
that was Man City early on. Remember, City, that was Man City early on. They wanted they almost built so fast that they end up having that same quote. Used to be used a lot by them, a lot of prima donnas, because they were just bringing in flashy players who weren't gelling together as a team, and just had a lot of that.
And they didn't really have an identity. I think even now Pep still struggles to kind of, I mean, now under Pep they do have an identity. I think they've established themselves as now. They've taken the time, they've built their academy, they've built their structure, supported the structure and everything else. And Newcastle has a lot of upside. The ownership, I'm still a little bit not impressed by the history of Mohammed bin Salman Hammam, but at the same time, it's a capitalist open market society. So as long as you're not convicted, they'll allow you to buy wherever you want, and them certainly have the money, so they decide to buy a football club.
Same, but I'm just not into it though. I'm really not into just the whole fact that you have a lot of money, you buy a team, you start to buy players because they have money to pay the guys. I'm just not into it.
I agree with you there. That was yesterday's game. I didn't mention your game on Friday. Apologies for that. When you put a 3 in Aston Villa, 3-1. That was an excellent game. It seems our trajectories are connected somehow, because when I'm going up, you seem to be struggling at the bottom, and when you going up, I seem to be finding my way lower.
Yeah. Because if you look at it, we had in the last 5 we won 3, draw 2. In the last 5 you lost 3, win 1, draw 1. So it's seems that way. But the thing about it though is that, and I guess it all comes down to like perceived promises. You guys there were 2 big moves, 2 worldwide big moves in football this year. Messi and Ronaldo. 2 of the top 2 footballers in the world made switches from their previous teams, one to an older team, the other one to a new team. And even me, like, okay, Messi going to PSG was like, okay, yeah, good move. PSG had the money. Plus, again, they gave basically got him on a free transfer, so he getting the same wages, But okay, that was a move. But then what the Ronaldo move was bigger still than the Messi move. As huge as the Messi move was, the Ronaldo move was bigger. But when I go to perceived promises, is that if I'm a Man U supporter and I see Ronaldo coming in, and we were, I'm guessing, the league, actually, you just started, so it doesn't really matter where the team was. at the point in time in standings, but you're not expecting to lose. That's almost automatic. You have a Ronaldo coming in the squad. Your team, I mean, the perception is that your team should not lose. That's just the true perception, and that's not happening. I mean, Bobby, seriously, it's not happening. I mean, in truth and in fact, you can't say that teams should lose because, you know, it's a sport, teams lose, whatever. But I mean, you have the greatest returning. I mean, how? I don't know. I'm not even knocking Man United.
Allow me to pontificate.
Any team. Mm-hmm.
Allow me to pontificate.
Yes.
Because I have promised my listeners that this is the last time I'm going to be Manchester United related anything up and until Ole is relieved of his duties. Right?
Some say tomorrow.
I am. If it's tomorrow, then I'm talking Manchester United next week. But when everybody, you see, Manchester United is a huge commercial machine.
Right.
And the Glazers, being Americans, understand commercialism and how to get things sold, but they are not as good on football.
Mm-hmm.
And I've argued in previous discussions that they made the initial decision by appointing the wrong people in the wrong places. They appointed commercially driven people as opposed to football people and put them in charge of. That was a mistake that was made from the very beginning. Sir Alex overshadowed it because he was everything Manchester United. Nothing happened football related unless he sanctioned it. So he had a protection umbrella over squad, coaches, whatever. Once he left, that umbrella was removed. And a lot of these managers now became exposed to a lack of proper decision making in the higher ups, football related, technically related. Obviously, we have not regained that level of stability yet. But my biggest challenge with this whole situation is this. No matter how many big name players you bring to Manchester United, the coach know what we're doing, we are not going. The statement you made in the beginning is more applicable to Manchester United than the West Indies team. We are a team of stars.
Stars. Okay. Not a star team.
We are not a star team.
Okay.
And unfortunately, we are a team of stars in the hands of a coach who has yet to achieve anything of note on his managerial resume.
Mm-hmm.
Except winning he win in Norway with Molde. He won the first division with Molde. Right? Now, let me lay out for you why I think this man is really, and then maybe you could correct me where you think I'm wrong. We got about 10 minutes, so I'll try and make this quick, and then you will correct me if you think I'm.
Okay.
From the beginning, I said he was not the person because his managerial record never impressed me. Cardiff, he got relegated. Went over, won something with Molde, but all outside of his tenure with Manchester United as a player, and then even when he was a youth team coach, he was not even that instrumental in them days, right? So you don't have a CV. You came in as an interim coach. Therefore, your planning is never going to be long-term. Your planning, as far as what you're doing here, is short-term. They need somebody to stabilize until they get a better coach. So when you jump up in the middle of that interim and give this man who never had long-term views a long-term contract and has never managed and coached a team for a long-term period successfully, a long-term contract. He now is forced to do a mental reset that he was never prepared to do. He was only there for 6 months, right? You leave him there, fine. Everybody, Ole is a nice guy. Ole play with Scholes and Rio and all of them love Ole bad. Ole sit up on the bench, catch pine in the bottom for hours and then come and score 2 goals. Everybody love Ole. Fine, leave him there. No players, neither players that he came and met, players that he brought in, has shown any significant improvement in their play. None of the players. Even players that were beginning to shine like Shaw have dropped off, tapered off dramatically this season.
Rashford.
Right? Maguire was brought in, even though most persons outside of United knew Maguire was a dud. Good defender, but not a star defender. Ole made Maguire our captain. Again, you never win anything in your life. But now you are, in your first season with us, you are our captain, you know. You represent the badge and what we have won. Okay. So no players, even his favorite players, have improved under him. Rashford was as good as he is, even under Mourinho. Martial performed better under Mourinho than he is under Ole right now. More consistent. Team selections. Everybody has questions about Ole and his team selections. And when Ole have a team, he just run them to the ground until they're injured and then try and bring in somebody and fit them. So now the problem we had last season, straight to this, Donny van de Beek was bought a high quality midfielder from Ajax. Can't get a peep in. Why? Because our manager cannot figure a way to include him in the squad. Not because the boy can't play, you know, but because you just get so set in your mind that these are the players that you want on the field because of favoritism or otherwise, that you don't decide to figure out how to rotate properly and ensure that you protect and include all the players to have a more team approach. Fine. They have a massive squad, you know, one of the biggest squads in the EPL we have. Good. Poor use of the role players, like we say with Donny van de Beek, so I'm not going to repeat that. He does not use them properly. Therefore, players like Dan James just becomes irrelevant and we sell them. Romero, from the backup goalkeeper for David De Gea for many, many years, quality keeper, irrelevant, sell him, couldn't even get himself. Lukaku, you name it. Too many players that could have been of use to us, we could manage them, sell them. No person, United fan, can tell me what is United style of play right now. Nobody. United does not have a style of play. And I don't think that's by design. I think he just don't know what he's doing. And then, and then finally, well, the final main point is, he's being outmaneuvered now almost every single game, tactically. And he's unsure, he's not yet able to show me that he's able to respond consistently. We are too dependent on individual brilliance, such as Ronaldo and otherwise, to bail us out of circumstances during games. We are walking into the park and being down within 15 minutes, 2-0, and take the team, which shows a clear level of unpreparedness and tactical outmaneuvering by other managers who know what Manchester United coming with and can beat them within the first 15 minutes of the game. And finally, Ole might be a nice guy, but show me a nice guy manager that has won anything of note. Just show me one. any coach, any manager that's won anything of note as a nice guy. That's the end of that. Those are my points.
True. We're gonna go, I'm gonna start the last one first and add something. You mentioned Ole being a nice guy, and it just triggered something. I remember yesterday during West Indies match, Sammy pointed out how nice our guy Simmons was, and then he was speaking about how different it was with Simmons and former coach, Barbados, what his name was again, Otis Gibson, and it was so different. But then Otis Gibson, a lot of persons had an issue with Otis Gibson, but we won the World Cup. So it goes to that. And someone else mentioned, spoke about it. I think we had a discussion when we spoke about Phil Simmons, Phil Jackson. Same thing again. These guys, they weren't like, they had issues with players. Like nobody said, he was always fun with them, because they understood that, listen, I'm the manager. You ain't gonna always like what I do. Same thing with Mourinho. I'm the manager. You might not like what I do all the time, but I'm the manager. So if I decide to sub you off in 27 minutes because I feel you're doing stupidness, I can sub you off in 27 minutes if I feel you're doing stupidness. We don't have to be friends or anything. And that's something that Mourinho did many times. So yes, so I see where you're coming from with that, because it seemed like, going back to what you said, because he played with Ferdinand and all those guys, you hear them use that term a lot. He's a nice guy. Yeah, but it doesn't mean anything much, I guess, when it comes to football, because you're managing a team, and you are correct.
One of the things they've mentioned over and over is that he's improved the mood around Old Trafford since Mourinho. Because Mourinho is a little bit of a confusion man.
Yeah.
But in my mind, if Mourinho was using that to get the best out of his players, then he found a method to get the best out of his players that maybe did not work for United, but would have worked for his Chelsea teams before, his Porto teams before, whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. But you going and improving the mood in the dressing room don't necessarily mean that you're going to make them players push to the hardest that they can. Pogba plays hard for France. McTominay plays hard for Scotland. Fred plays hard for Brazil.
Yeah.
He's a Brazil starter, so he's not like he's totally useless. Mm-hmm. Where it is that these men just come now and do this set of nonsense in the Manchester United team, so nobody will hold him accountable. Look at Maguire. Maguire just come off of playing some internationals there. He ain't had no such a mistake. Mm-hmm. He cost us 8 goals over the last 2 games.
But I guess it's because they're not being held accountable. When you're not being held accountable, to hell with it. Sorry, but they don't care. So like these guys play the same way. I think though, it's funny, but I have not seen I have not seen like certain reactions from Ronaldo that I've seen him when playing for Juventus, playing for Real Madrid, playing for Portugal, that I've seen him, and prior to that playing for Man United, that I've seen him. He's almost like a football perfectionist, and he doesn't seem like he stands for a lot of stupidness on the field. And I haven't seen him like, call out or be aggressive towards his own fellas. And I don't know if it's because he's just coming back in, so he's trying not to ruffle too much feathers.
It's a real nice, everybody nice now, everybody happy, everybody making big money, and therefore there's no need to fight for the badge, no need to fight for to win games, because they're all going home and sleep comfortably, and they have the fans and them to worry about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then if you don't play well, you won't be playing Champions League next year,
Yeah. Well, I am hoping that is the straw that breaks the camel's back. If not, we will see how it goes from.
You guys gonna end up just like us, because something you pointed it out in early on when you started speaking about Ole, whereby you pointed he didn't have any managerial experience. You brought into him. Same thing with Arteta into him. He played well. he was an okay player. He trained under one of the best coaches.
Let me stop you. Hold on.
Mhm.
Arteta trained under the best PL coach we have right now, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
That's still a better pedigree than Ole's. But
That Ole.
our program should have ended at 5. So what I'm gonna do, as usual, we can tell our listeners good afternoon. But by next week we should have a bit more to discuss about West Indies. I promise you, I know more. I get pester you with no more Ole musing. If you want to discuss a little bit more about it, you can go ahead and do it. I would have no such problem. But for our listeners, yeah,
I
done with it
realize
right
you
now.
stop, especially in the chat. I realize you stop talking. So
Yeah, I'm done with it now. Too shame. But I would like to say thanks to all of our listeners. Thanks again for joining me, Kawhi. Congrats to Arsenal and the Arsenal supporters. Commiserations to the Manchester United supporters, Liverpool likewise, City likewise, and the West Indians. Let's hope to rebound come Tuesday. So thanks to the listeners, and thanks to everyone else who's been paying attention via social media or otherwise for joining us on the bench meeting. Have a pleasant afternoon, one and all.
For real and unbiased sports news and reviews from